Today we're going to talk a bit about focus groups and how you will use a focus group in communication research. There's a number of ideas we need to go through together, and then I'd like to watch a video with you and try to make some appropriate commentary to show what's working and what is not working. All right, so to begin with, a focus group. This is going to be a small group of people who you have brought together to discuss your topic. You will have some questions and you will have some various things that you would like them to discuss. One of the important things to know is that a focus group is going to be qualitative. You will often have between 8 and 12 people in a focus group. There are some focus groups that are smaller, and this can work if you're looking for some more in-depth data, but if you're trying to get a good view of your population, you might be better off with between 8 to 12, that you'll have more people who will speak, and you're less likely to have that one just random person who can take control when you have a group of 3 or 4, for instance. What you need to be aware of also is that you can't make a focus group quantitative. We cannot say 90% of the focus group participants agreed, da 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 da. Of course you can say that, but in social science research that's considered to be a don't, because you're looking for a quality of data. You are looking for information you can interpret. You are not looking for information that you can put into a numerical or statistical framework. Another idea is that you need to have fairly homogeneous groups, that your focus group should have 8 to 12 people who are more similar than they are different. Let's say for example, that you are doing focus groups to discover what Lee University students think about chapel. All right. For the focus groups, you may choose one focus group to be underclassmen, freshmen and sophomores. You may have a second focus group, juniors and seniors, and perhaps a third focus group with graduate students. What would be awkward is if you had one group that had some underclassmen, some upperclassmen, and then some graduate students. It's not going to give you a whole lot of focus, and if you've noticed that name focus group, it's supposed to focus, to put this spotlight to look at a very specific area. And if you have a lot of diversity, and I'm not talking ethnic diversity here, I'm just talking people with bigger differences than the similarities. So if you need diversity, you just need to have separate groups for them. Now, in this class, if you are just looking to see what undergraduates think and you don't anticipate differences between freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, it's fine to have them in the same group. It's only if that's one of your focuses, that you want your foci to look at different types of people or different types of groups, that you would need to have these separate groups. All right, now focus groups are supposed to be flexible. The idea is that you have people talking. You want conversations to begin. You want participants to interact with each other. You want them to kind of build off each other. You want one person to say, well, I think this and that and this. And your second person will go, oh my goodness, me too. And then you'll have a third person who says, really? I've never thought of things that way. It's great if they can interact like that. And as long as the group is discussing things that are of interest to the researcher, that is just fine. The facilitator, which is often the researcher, it is just your job to try to keep people talking about the appropriate types of topics. So if people interrupt you, if they disagree with you, if they're saying the same thing over and over and over again, you know what? It's could be okay as long as they're still heading in that direction where they're giving you content that you can analyze later. We try to start out with questions that are more general, that talk about a larger topic, and then gradually narrow them down. It lets people understand a context for your more specific questions. So this is kind of your chance to frame what you want them to think about and talk about. And in communication, I think most researchers and most professors will tell you that silence is really good. That when silence is happening, this is your chance to observe and to try to figure out why people are being quiet. So if you have silence, don't try to break it immediately. Just kind of wait and see if somebody will pipe in or not. And of course, that is easier said than done. I always say I like silence, but on the other hand, I sometimes race. If my classroom, if people are too silent, I race to fill it, or I make a remark about the hour of the morning. So it's hard to do, even if you really believe silence is valuable. As I mentioned before, you are looking for words. We're not trying to quantify this, we're not trying to give numbers. And so when you discuss a focus group in your paper, one of the primary things is that we will discuss themes that occur in the focus group. And so you have between 3 to 5 themes that have been discussed in the group. You may use that there are popular topics, relevant themes, this type of thing, and we'll work on this more later. You do not want to tell stories. You do not want to converse. You do not want to be the center of attention. It is not your place to disagree. However, you should not let fights break out either. If two people start arguing, then if it's not fruitful, there is a time and a place to break it up, in which you may have to stand up or you may have to lean over towards them and say, hey, wait a minute, we only have 30 minutes, so let's talk about something else. And sometimes you just have to be obvious. Now, how long is the focus group? This is up to you, but I find focus groups between 30 minutes to an hour is great. If it goes beyond that, it rarely is useful. And so I try not to let them go longer. Can you have real quick ones? Sure, it's possible that you could have a 10-minute focus group and get exactly what you need. You have to be focused and ready to guide your people to quick decisions, quick ideas, and to be comfortable with sharing. Now, I want to take a look at a video of a focus group and do some pauses to try to discuss what's working and what's not working.
That's right. No, this is pretty interesting. Not all of you are aware of this out there, but last Friday we did a special episode of this show in which the audience was comprised entirely of 6 to 9-year-old kids. And no, we did. We just thought we're going to do this as an experiment, and we filled the entire audience with these really young kids and just did our normal show, just for the concept of it. And well, we're going to show you a clip that was on last Friday, but just to bring you up to date, here was a clip of what it was like a little bit. According to a new survey, kids, Washington, D.C. is the worst place to raise a family. That's right, yeah. However, it's still the best place to raise illegal campaign contributions, huh? They love political humor. What can I say? Well, anyway, afterwards, this really happened. We really did this show, and afterwards, someone on the staff had the idea of bringing back some of the kids who were there at the taping and getting them to participate in a focus group about the show. We thought that would just be a cool thing to do.
Yeah, you know, like get a group of the kids, set them down with a network guy.
Right.
And then he could quiz them about their opinions about the show, which helps us gauge what the people at home are thinking.
Exactly, yeah. Well, the idea here was we figured kids would give us a fresh perspective and also maybe be a little more honest.
One of our first problems comes because we have a problem with our choice of who we are going to be doing a focus group with. They want to know information about adults and how adults view the program, so they decide to ask kids. So, not exactly the strongest choice, although if you want to create comedy, perhaps it is a good choice, but from a research standpoint, not as strong as it could be. Now we need to take a look at more of the video and see what is going on with that.
Eye-opening. Take a look.
Now what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be asking you a couple questions in an effort to help us maybe see what we're doing right on the show and also where we could maybe improve things.
All right, so one of our bad things here is that there is no informed consent. Maybe there was, but we have not seen it. When you give an intro, you tell what is happening in the focus group, you should also give each person an informed consent to sign and an extra copy that they can bring home with them. Real important, do not do a focus group without having an informed consent.
You can just watch this clip.
That was a close call. That was a close call. All right, okay, hold on. Now, wait a minute.
Daniel, whose fault was it that it was so boring? Was it Conan's fault?
Yeah.
Yeah, Conan was...
Yeah, Conan, it was probably Conan's fault.
Because he's boring, Daniel?
Well, sometimes he's boring.
I gave that kid a cupcake.
Andy is like worthless because he only says 3 words per show.
3 words, right.
It's
And those
Conan's
3
show.
words
But
are...
it's Conan's fault also that,
Right.
that he's like talking at the time. But it is his show. I don't really care.
I'm worthless?
Right.
I can't speak what you said. I used more than 3 words.
Yeah.
Right.
He should give equal amounts of time because there's 2 people on the show.
How many people think that Conan should give equal time to Andy?
He only says 3 words.
He only says 3 words. Right.
Do you feel that way? Do you feel like that I squeeze you out?
And nod your head yes.
Look, this is about the kids, not about me.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about what happened in this little clip. Now, in the beginning, it was fine. We had some open-ended questions. Who was responsible? And that's great. You can pick somebody as that person did to answer, or just leave it open to the group. But then it went south because although the child responded and said it was Conan's fault, then the interviewer, the facilitator, then said something to the extent of why, because Conan is boring. Now, a facilitator should never suggest an answer, whether it's what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. You should not do. We have a great example of how a facilitator could let the conversation go into a different direction. The facilitator asks if Conan should change his hair, and one of the child spouts out that no, he needs to change his attitude. Interesting. If somebody thinks that, that's just great information that a facilitator wants to know. So very unexpected, but really useful. And so a facilitator should just let that go forward.
Well, let's move on to a different one. What I'm going to ask you individually is to rate Andy's intelligence 1 through 10. Kelly, first, Andy's intelligence 1 through 10, 10 being the highest.
About 7,
7.
And 3 more than Conan.
3 more than Conan.
All right, there's a few things that have gone on in this section we should talk about. From the good, that we do have the facilitator who decides to go around the table on a particular question to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to answer. It's not a long question, it's something that's fairly short, and so this can be a good idea with particular questions. However, there's some things going wrong as well. Really, to have this type of secret observation, there would need to be an informed consent that was given that would specify the possibility of being secretly observed, and then, of course, parents would have to sign it for the children, and you have hopefully done the certification for the National Institute of Health, and you know that children are a special population. So this could bring some real difficulties in a project. The last thing is the facilitator likes to interpret responses out loud. So kind of similar above when I said the facilitator was prompting a particular answer. This is similar to that, but he is interpreting what the kid is saying this time and saying, so this is what you mean, but it's not a paraphrase. Paraphrasing's fine. It's taking the kid's comment to another level, and facilitators should not be doing this. Your interpretation happens once all of the data is collected.
If Conan were in your school, if he was one of your classmates, do you think that Conan would be picked on a lot?
Yeah. I'd probably pick on him and say, oh, come and get the ball. Here.
Right. Get the ball. Okay. And do you remember when the woman animal handler came on and Conan acted like he was had a crush on her? Do you remember this?
Here, can we get him on the desk?
This is Whitney Hahn from Catoctin Zoo in Fairmont, Maryland, and she's raised this animal. It's about a year old.
How are you? I like Whitney. Wow.
Very inappropriate in front of children.
All right, so what's happening here that's positive is there was a quick explanation of the video clip, prompted the kids' memory about what it was about, and then asked for their response. And as I look at it, I didn't think that the facilitator biased this by sounding shocked, upset, judgmental. Simply set it up and used appropriate word choices for a kid that Conan acted like he had a crush, and that's great wording for this particular set of people who are in the focus group. So that was done well. On the other hand, right before that, there was a poor choice made when the facilitator made fun of a respondent's comment. It was a little boy who said would he pick on Conan, and he would take a ball and go like that. And he used nonverbals to explain the whole message. And of course the facilitator saw that, but he kind of made fun of it anyways, was writing down the unimportant part of the message. And if you look at the boy's face, he kind of got it, but he was surprised. He wasn't really expecting to be made fun of. But it does go past that fairly quickly, so probably this child was not harmed significantly from the experience. As we continue further, we're going to let you listen to what I think is a really interesting question, and it's the type of thing that you should consider doing in a focus group where you ask a question that's not expected and ask people to answer something that they just hadn't thought of before. What kind of cartoon animal do they remind you of?
What cartoon animals do they remind you of? Daniel?
I think Andy reminds me of a cow, and Conan reminds me of a cartoon animal, like Daffy Duck or something like that. Or maybe, I think Andy reminds me of Porky Pig.
Now, there were some good things that happened during this section. So I mentioned that was a great question. What kind of cartoon animal would they be? But also, another thing that the facilitator does quite well is a facilitator does not correct the respondent. When the respondent begins to offer that Andy is like a cow, which is a real animal, not a cartoon animal, then the facilitator just kind of lets that flow. That's probably interesting, and if it were a real focus group, it could give you great information to analyze later. And in this case, one of the other respondents corrected the original one, and that was fine too. We let those respondents, we let the focus group participants be able to interact with each other. And if it became contentious, we wouldn't want to do that. But in this case, it was very well accepted by the first boy, so that worked quite well.
Would you describe Max as a rock star?
Not to me. I don't think it's a good idea for him to wear glasses, like your glasses,
Right.
for him to wear glasses while he's playing. Because I saw him and he lost the beat when he was trying to push back his glasses.
Now, what worked so well for this one is that although there was a yes or no question that was being asked by the facilitator is, would you call Max a rock star? The inflection that the facilitator uses invited additional thoughts and ideas. It invited more responses than just yes or no. So that was done quite well.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you rather have your teeth drilled or come here?
Drill.
You'd rather have your teeth drilled than come and watch the Conan show.
Yeah.
All right, this is the last one, so we're heading into the home stretch. This was a bad question. Sometimes we throw in outlandish questions when we are with the focus group. We kind of want a home run, so we throw out something which has an obvious answer. In this case, would you rather have your teeth drilled or watch Conan O'Brien? And as a mother who has 3 kids, and my kids have countless friends, I can tell you they would not actually want their teeth to be drilled. That age, they're going to be often screaming, crying, and freaking out. Yeah, no. But on the other hand, there's just something about human nature that when somebody says something outlandish, we just like to say, well, yeah, you thought that was kind of a dumb question, but I'll tell you what, that's what I would choose. I would choose to be at the dentist with my teeth being drilled with no Novocaine and with a bigger drill than what they normally use. Why? I'm sure there's a communication theory that explains it, but there is just something that often people like to answer contrary, and then when one person does it and they claim it, then other people join in, and it's silly, but it happens all the time. This happens in classes as well. I'll make a very obvious comment of something that is readily evidently true, and I will have most of the class disagree with me. But yet a week later, their actions bear out the original thing that I thought. Like, for instance, you ask a class one time what they would like to have as a snack. Do they want, as a treat, do they want chocolate? Do they want something healthy? And I have somebody, this isn't all that outlandish, but you have one person who claims, oh, I have to have healthy. I wouldn't eat anything that's not healthy. And then everyone else joins in and that's all they would eat is healthy. So I bring in something half healthy, half chocolate junk food. And within 3 minutes, the chocolate junk food is gone, vanished. And most often, my health food nuts also have eaten that, and sometimes the healthy is not even touched. And I just find it's really interesting, but it's much easier to claim, oh, I would only eat health food, I wouldn't eat the chocolate. But, come on. Somebody's going to bring you a treat to a class. You really think you want carrots and ranch dressing that's non-fat? Yeah. Not me. Maybe not you either. All right, so I hope through this you've seen a little bit about the focus groups, what works, what doesn't work, and that it hasn't been as horrible as having your teeth drilled. Although, if you say it is as bad as having your teeth drilled, I think I just might believe you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.